whenever I'm kind of like, talking with like a young person or someone who's trying to discover their passion and they're worried that like, oh, am I just doing this because my favorite photographer is doing this or whatnot? I'm just like, just do it. You need to try it and experience it first before you can really decide like, okay, this is what I want.
Let's roll. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Nomadic mic. We are finally on season 2, and it's been such an insane 2023. The fact that this is our final episode of the year, and given that we have just built this incredible set this year as well, I'm so happy to announce that the first episode of season 2 is none other than a Nomadic mic favorite, officially from episode 3, Seb Xavier.
Hello!
Except this time in the flesh.
Yeah, gone are the days of COVID.
There we go, gone are the days. Speaking of COVID, that was actually the last time we had recorded an episode together. And life was so different back then.
So different.
But it's also been 3 years.
3 years of my life that will never take back.
Yeah, 3 years of our 20s as well that we'll never get back. In fact, I don't think that's something I even think about. Just because it's one of those things I don't want to think about.
It's like whenever anyone asks you how old you are, it's kind of like minus COVID-3.
Yeah.
Like the Korean calendar is like everyone's born like 1.
Yeah.
Now we're like everyone's like +3, -3.
Right. Do you feel like this thing that people say, 30 is the new 20. Do you think there's any merit to that, or do you think that's just people trying to cope with the fact that they're getting older?
I don't know. I feel like it is a pretty good saying, to be fair. Like I do feel like nowadays especially, there's no real like age where you're in your prime. Maybe like physically, yeah. Like obviously like athletes and whatnot, like yeah, usually like 20s or late 20s is your prime. Mm. But I think like now, like career-wise, you've got people starting stuff at like 40, 50, 30, bada bing, bada boom. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
That, and I am also almost 30, so that's probably why I think that, but
Yeah, all of us in the room today are born in the same year, so we're all kind of on pace. We're all 27.
Zillennials.
Yeah, zillennials. Yeah, we are. Wow, I've never heard that term before.
Yeah.
We are on the cusp of being a millennial.
Heard that on TikTok.
And, yeah. See, I'm not on TikTok, which is why I don't know this. But for those of you who have been following the Nomadic mic since the beginning, you will know who Seb is. But for those of you who don't, Seb is an artist that I respect personally very much for a few reasons. The first reason is that he's been producing the quality of work that he is today, and he's been playing this game at a high level for years now. Like at the time that I did this interview with him first 3 years ago, he was already producing mind-boggling work that was catching the attention of people from all around the world. And the legacy stays the same. Although the reason that we have him back on today is because 3 years ago, artificial intelligence was not even in the conversation. But as many of you have either heard or you might have had the chance to play around with the likes of Midjourney or DALL-E or any of these other engines, AI is capable of surprisingly way more than I think any of us might have imagined. Leaps and bounds in just 365 days.
Yeah.
And in that process, thanks to this man's expression on his social media channels, which I think you do very well, I would love to try and get your perspective on how you're also managing your community and all that stuff. But apart from that, I did sense a little bit of frustration from your side online when artificial intelligence did first come out, because I do feel like it impacts your work directly.
For sure.
And it might impact the way that people see the value of your work. Take us a little bit through that thought process and what it was like when it first came out.
I think like, one, I grew up watching all these like movies and stuff. I'm sure you did as well with like Terminator and I don't know, iRobot or anything like sci-fi with like AI. You just automatically think Skynet. You just think like we're all gonna die. But that aside, I think it's like it's something that's unavoidable right now, right? Like every brand and every product under the sun has those two letters just kind of part of their advertising. It's like a keyword now. Like even our vacuum cleaners have AI. Even our freaking, I don't know, like everything has AI now apparently. Even our cameras have AI, which is crazy. But I think the AI you're talking about and the one that I most kind of have the strongest opinions on at least is using AI to kind of generate art and stuff, right? So like you said, we've got the Mid-Journey, we've got like Photoshop AI, DALL-E, etc., etc. I think it's scary because you're right. It creates insane results already now. And this is like AI's kind of first year, really. Give it like 2-3 more years and you'll see quality that's insane. I think now, like if you really zoom in, if you really like kind of pixel peep or whatever, then you'll kind of see the imperfections and be like, okay, that was AI. But only like a couple weeks ago, I was at this event in London, which is where I'm normally based. We had like, there was like a film producer who kind of, we had this conversation about the same thing. And he was like, oh yeah, like in my industry, in the film commercial industry, like he does advertising and stuff. He's slowly being phased out because companies are now beginning to use AI to create commercials. And he showed me like an example of video AI commercials and it looks impeccable. Like it looks insane. And it's done for a fraction of the time, fraction of the budget, because it's basically free. All you have to do is like spend a couple hours writing prompts and the results insane. Like genuinely, if you look from afar, you're like, wow, that's perfect. So I think commercially, it's now only a matter of time before AI is going to fully take over. And it's, can I swear on this podcast?
Go for it.
Okay.
Before you do, I do want to say, and I forgot to mention this earlier, I can't believe it, but the Nomadic mic is presented by Skillz for the Future, which is our education technology startup that we're building. So actually, a lot of young people are going to see this podcast as a reference for how they can potentially build their career in the future and how you've kind of like done yours. Okay. That being said, say whatever you want to. Okay. That's your audience.
It's fucked. But yeah, I think like commercially, it's going to be very difficult for the next couple of years or so, just because I think like with AI, it just does everything a client would want for a fraction of the price. Like for example, if you were filming, I don't know, the BMW commercials in like the Scottish Highlands. If you're filming it legit, you need to get a crew, you need to get the production, you need to get the insurance, you need to get equipment, everything, bada bing, bada boom. And it could be like thousands, like 20, 40K at least, right? With AI, boom, looks good, fraction of the time. And people and commercial clients will want the best product for the least amount of time. Yeah. Which is why I think in the next couple of years, commercially, I'm really scared. And I'm going to be completely honest, fully transparent. I'm terrified because I feel like I'm going to get less opportunities. I'm probably going to get like, you know, less opportunities, et cetera, but I think artistically, like to create art, people I think will still prefer that human touch, which is why I think commercially it's looking scary, but artistically, I think that's where I'm going to stay in for a little bit. And then I want to say in maybe 5, 6, 7 years or so, that's when people will be like, actually, we do kind of miss the human touch. And maybe humans can be going back into the commercial world as well. And then I want to say in 10 years time is when we'll reach like an equilibrium where there'll be AI and humans working together. Because I feel like AI has some amazing capabilities that we can use as creatives for sure. Yeah. And I think AI is perfect as a tool. So like AI autofocus, insane. AI like denoising, insane. Like I love when AI is used in that way as like as a tool for creatives, for humans to use to make their products better. But when it's used to replace humans, that's when I have like a huge like,
Yeah.
That's basically my thoughts.
I hear that. There's a prolific entrepreneur, investor, philosopher from Silicon Valley, this guy called Naval Ravikant. He's like quite frequently quoted on the internet, especially in like these podcast type settings, right?
Okay.
But his prediction that I've heard is that everyone is en route to becoming an entrepreneur in the future, right?
True.
And that too, with entrepreneurship, they are en route to taking on the more creative side of their personalities, because eventually everything that can be automated will be automated,
yeah.
right? But then since we are talking about art, right, I suppose there's going to be a distinction between, okay, what is commercially viable, aka what's cheap to create, what's fast to create, all these other things. But at the same time, we're human beings, and the more automated that the world gets, I think the more we're going to crave that human touch.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of like reports these days about Gen Zers reporting increased levels of loneliness because of greater attachment to their phones and less attachment to other human beings. And with every problem in society comes a solution eventually. Yeah. Right. True. So I do imagine as a society, we're going to revisit this idea that, okay, how do we actually get closer as people? And based on what you just said, it seems to me that that solution might eventually go down the route of creating art together.
Yep.
But what that actually looks like, I have no idea. Have you ever explored what we could potentially create using things like VR, possibly in like a cloud space?
See, I think like with like VR, AR and stuff, and like, you know, Meta and everything that they're doing and stuff, there is definitely so much like opportunity and kind of uncharted territory where like the possibilities are truly endless, and that part is very exciting to me, because I feel like, you know, what are we going to come up with next? Like how, because like you said, that kind of AI and human integration and working together to create something insane is something like so fascinating and could yield such amazing results. But, and I don't know if this is like the boomer energy in me, or like the maybe, I guess you could even say snobbish kind of attitude that I may have. There's a part of me that's always kind of like, I want to do it my way, and I want to do it the way that I know. And I feel like there have been instances, right? Because we kind of had this chat like before we started recording. Yeah. People comparing my work to AI. Yeah. Which is very easy, because like there are like elements of like, it does feel like AI generated vibes. Right. And there have been opportunities where like I probably could have saved so much time and so much like effort if I just like, rather than building a set or paying someone to like buy a prop or something, just be like, yeah. But I still prefer to do it for realsies, right? Yeah. So I don't know. So personally, no, I haven't really experienced like VR stuff or AR stuff or anything that, you know, that world could bring. Yeah. But I am also kind of excited, you know? I don't know. It's a tough one for me.
No, I think it's such a good time to have you on the show as well, because I do sense, I mean, apart from the fact that you're physically in the same space, so we could have you on, apart from that, just temperamentally, I feel like you're in a space where I've witnessed you grapple with this idea that, okay, AI exists now. Like, we have to coexist with AI, fine. And this is what I do for a living. Damn it, AI could do something that people could test me for. Yeah. Okay, fine. And then you got over that. And then I noticed you getting into a variety of, exploring a variety of form in mixed media storytelling, right? So you're not just making these videos and stuff now, these photorealistic images now. You're also exploring the vlog avenue of really connecting with people through your personality, right? And that's something that, okay, fine, you could create an AI model, and the AI model could like showcase their lifestyle and stuff, but that's not human, right? And you are exploring that human avenue of like vlog storytelling. And personally, I think vlogging is an art. I don't know how laughable that comment is, especially because the term vlog is literally slapped on anyone just kind of taking a selfie video. Yeah. But there is an aspect to cinematic storytelling of your own life, right? And because you already have those technical skills of cinematic storytelling, I feel like you've already kind of reached a level of vlogging that makes it interesting to watch your vlogs.
Thank
you know, but I want to know from your perspective where you're taking that, how you're feeling about it, and what your intention with that really is.
Firstly, thank you for like recontextualizing everything and making it sound all planned and stuff.
Hey.
It definitely was not planned. But yeah, I mean, I think like the whole point of me starting this kind of YouTube channel and beginning vlogging and whatnot is to, one, obviously let people kind of see into my life and see how I kind of operate as an artist in London and whatnot. But it's true. It does basically boil down to, now the whole world is going in this direction of AI made and kind of, you know, programmed and whatnot, that I feel like I do want to try new mediums and try new ways of kind of engaging with my audience. It's like, I actually haven't said this before, but for my next kind of big show in London, I'm planning an exhibition. I'm actually going to be experimenting with physical painting a lot.
Cool.
So I want to like paint on top of my photos. Right now, like I'm using kind of digital painting, incorporating that with my photography. But for my next exhibition, yeah, I'm going to actually paint and use like other physical things, just because I want to basically show my audience like this is what AI can't do. You know, maybe it will in a couple of years. You never know. But yeah, with my vlogging, it's just like you said, another way of me trying to like connect to my audience and kind of showing off, like, not showing off, but like, you know, just showing this other side of me that I've never done. I really look up to so many YouTube. I feel like we were part of that YouTube kind of generation, right? Where we were brought up on YouTube. Like I saw like the rise of like Smosh and Philip DeFranco and Corridor Digital, Freddie Wong, and all of these guys like inspired me so much that I really want to get into that space as well. And obviously recently we've seen the rise of like Emma Chamberlain and all these people. Yeah, it's just like a world I really want to get into and want to like, test the waters with. But it really does boil down to, I just want to try new things that can let people know that there's a human making all this stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to putting your face in front of other people, right? We're here on set today. Gabby's here as well. God bless Gabby for being behind the camera. But we're human and we're here in front of each other. So it's very natural and easy for us to express ourselves, right? But when it comes to speaking into a camera, or maybe even letting yourself be genuine when you're by yourself in front of a camera and having other people view that aspect of your personality, I think there's a sense of vulnerability that a lot of people can't get past in order to express themselves that way. I think you've been doing this for many years, so it comes very naturally to you now. But if you can give some insight to people of maybe what it was like when you started off, and if you have any advice for those who are trying to do this a little bit more actively, because I think a lot of people do have that inner creative that they're trying to break out with.
I think like, to be fair, even now, whenever I like take out a camera and stuff and have to like do things on camera, it does still feel weird. It does feel like a little like I need to put on this character, like this kind of confidence kind of comes in where I'm like, hi, YouTube. But yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, I think you just need to embrace the fact that people are there people want to see you for you, right? So I think like a lot of us will always try to like put on this kind of persona to feel like cooler, to feel like more successful, or to feel more like bravado or whatever, right? Because that's the social media game. Social media is like a highlight reel of everyone's life, right? So you're always constantly comparing yourself to these people, and that's why you always feel like shit. Because you're always looking at people's highlights and be like, wow, my life is crap in comparison to you. You're traveling to Bali, you're traveling to here, you're staying at these hotels, or you have this equipment and you're shooting these big ass campaigns or whatever. So you're always going to feel like crap. So it's almost ingrained in you to kind of put on this character whenever there's a camera. But I think the most important thing is just to embrace the fact that people want to see you for you. So you need to strip away that persona and just be like, just be dumb, not be dumb, just be you, right?
Yeah.
And be unapologetically you. And I think that's what makes people like Emma Chamberlain so successful and so relatable, is because I only recently got on Emma Chamberlain, by the way. Like I've mentioned her like twice already, and it makes me feel like a super
Number one fan over here.
But like I only recently got put onto her. But I think like so much of her success came from her just being goofy, like her editing style and whatnot. So I think that's what people really crave, especially nowadays with the rise of AI, with Kardashians and all these reality TV shows and this era of commercialism and perfection and this veneer of beauty. I think people just want to see people being themselves. I'm a huge fan of this YouTube group called The Sidemen with like KSI, Minter, and their best videos are when they're just being dumb. They're just like doing fart jokes and shit, and I'm like, okay, fart jokes are kind of dumb, but like, I love that.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's my biggest advice: strip away the persona and just be you.
Okay, I think the last time we spoke, in this kind of a setting, you mentioned you had a support group of like a lawyer. I forgot the other kind of
business people. Different areas of
expertise. The point is you had people from different walks of life around you, so that you can get a better insight into what kind of work you're producing from different perspectives, right? Cool. But in terms of your immediate friend group supporting what it is that you're doing, do you actively go and, okay, let me reverse this.
Okay.
Instead of, when you started off, did you actively go and seek support from your friends? Like, hey guys, check out what I've made. Look at this, look at what I made. I'll tell you guys about this in a second. Like, this is brilliant. But did you actively go and seek support, or do you just have that kind of friend group around you that's very forthcoming when it comes to sharing their support with you? And if, let's say, a creator out there doesn't have that, and they really do need to develop this skill of being self-driven, self-motivated, all that stuff, what kind of advice would you give to someone like that in order to build up a more flourishing and sustainable creative career or digital creative expression?
I think one of the most important things to have as a creative is to have that support group, is to have like people around you that can give you honest feedback. And if you don't have that, which is, very normal, I guess it really just involves you like sharing your work, right? Like it's just like, so when I started out, for example, it would just be me showing it to my parents or showing it to my like sister or my close friends from school, and just being like, oh, what do you think? And they could like, some of them are really into art and some of them aren't, and they'll just give you, their feedback. And sometimes like I'll tell them, oh, this was the message that I was trying to get across. And they'll be like, oh, I had no idea. Or like, they'll be like, oh shit, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So I think like your support group is basically like whoever is around you at the time. And I think it's interesting because like on Instagram or most of these social media, right, these algorithms are all kind of looking at your engagements, like how much people comment, how much people like and share, bada bing, bada boom. Those are all kind of like metrics that you should really ignore, in my opinion. But what you should always actively try to do is to look into these comments and initiate like a conversation. I think trying to get like feedback can really help you grow as an artist. And this is again something that you mentioned before we started recording, is like
the feedback loop.
The feedback loop and just trying to hear what other people have to say. I think without that, you're constantly just like, one, comparing it to other artists who are most likely going to be more successful or more or bigger than you, which is not very healthy. And two, just and like the conversation would just be with yourself. So you're just either it's going to go like, oh, I think I'm doing really good, or it's just going to be like, oh, I'm doing really crap. You're not actually getting anything new. You're not actually getting any input. So my biggest advice would be, just kind of like ask your friends, ask your family, or even like, I don't know, post it on like Facebook, post it on like, God, that makes me feel so old. Boomer energy Facebook.
So your high school teachers
just post it on post it like, Tumblr, Pinterest, maybe not Pinterest. Yeah, Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, just post and actually like ask people in the caption, be like, yo, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And this is something I'm trying to do right now as well with like my description, my captions, is I would actually ask people like, oh, which one is your favorite? Or I would post it on a story like, oh, what do you think of my latest post? And I would actually try and gauge people. Whether or not people actually reply is another matter. But the people that do, I'm genuinely interested.
It's so interesting you mentioned that call to action, like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Because obviously that's how you're going to engage with your audience, right? So I began my career as a copywriter, right? So a big part of the job in social copywriting, especially like for corporates or even if it's like a personal brand, is that you have to write those kinds of things, right? Like, which one do you guys prefer? 1, 2, or 3, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is just my perspective, but I've written these kinds of captions so much for larger corporations, they feel ingenuine.
Right.
To me.
Right.
Right? And when I go around to like typing that or on my Instagram stories, I'm like, hey, what do you guys think? Vote or put in like your answers to this question. And obviously this is just a perspective thing, like a perspective shift is what is required for me, right? But I guess those are the tools for you to actually engage with your audience. So it really is about how you perceive your audience, right? I think a lot of creators come in their own way, not because of how they perceive their audience, but how they perceive their audience to perceive them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And in some way, psychologically, that's also like somewhat of an imposter syndrome for how they perceive themselves in their own work.
For sure.
You know, so it's like a really strange
for sure.
interacting with, I mean, this is at least personally my interaction with devices, right? That's just my personal experience.
I get you. I think, like, to be fair, you're not wrong. When I do see people post like, oh, what do you think? Like, I don't expect people to actually put what they think. But that's something I'm actively trying to kind of change with, like, me at least, is like when people ask me, like, because just strip away like the whole kind of like technology thing for a sec. I hate it when people just give you like, I'm not a big fan of yes men, right? Like when I ask a friend like, what do you think of my work? I want them to actually be honest and be like, this is great. However, I didn't really see this message, or however, I didn't really like the way you executed it. Which is why, like, right now, my biggest kind of support group is actually our mutual friend Marcus and my girlfriend. Because when I ask them, like, what do you think? They're not just going to be like, oh, yeah, it looks good, man. Yeah. They'll be like, what are you trying to say? Like, what? And then they'll really go deep and be like, how do you plan on executing this idea? And I actually have like an inner sanctum of people that I go to now. That's my support group, is like a few people. Yeah. And there's like a ring, like a level to it. So like my first person I would talk to is like my girlfriend, and then Marcus, and then another friend. Yeah. And basically, like, I don't like it when people just give you like a fake answer. Like, you know. Yeah. So going back to like social media and stuff, whenever I see people asking me, or like on their posts or on their stories or whatnot, asking like, what do you think? I always try to be very honest. Sure. And that can come off as like a hater, but I just prefer it that way. Yeah. So by what's the quote where like you need to be the change or something?
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. And that's
I heard you like kind of chime in over there. And so, do you feel like you're like part of the conversation? Yeah, that's happened so many times before, where somebody behind the cameras actually chimed in and they've realized, like, wait a second.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, yeah. Go on.
But yeah, like, genuinely, like, I want people to actually like comment and actually reply to my stories and stuff and give me honest feedback. So I'm always trying to do that. And like with my own kind of work and stuff, I love it when people, love is a strong word when people hate on my work, but I love it when people actually give me like their insight and be like, actually, I think this was a little tone deaf, or, oh, actually, I think this, could have been done in a way better way, but I mean, bada boom. And a lot of the time I'm like, damn, I wish like you were there with me when I was coming up with this idea. I kind of forgot what the original question was.
No, I sidetracked as well by making that comment, but I did have like a follow-up question. I had like two segues to that. The first was to do with respect,
Right.
in relation to the specific line of work that you've chosen, or being a creative in general. Respect can go into two areas. One is, okay, you're an Asian guy, Asian family, Asian society. How do people judge that? And is it because you have a large following on Instagram and because you create dope work and I guess interact with other people who have large followings? Does that automatically gain you the respect from the people who traditionally view things like higher degrees or professional degrees as the general baseline for what a successful career is? Actually, let's start with that. I mean, yeah, I could have. There's just going to be another really long-winded question after that as well. So let's just start with this one.
It's interesting. That's like a very interesting question, just because like I don't really discuss my work as much with my family or like my extended family, just because it does feel like slightly taboo for me.
Okay.
I'm still at that stage where like
is that because of the subject matter?
I think there's the subject matter and also the classic, like in Asian kind of in the Asian eye, you know, like the arts or creatives and whatnot is still kind of, but like definitely subject matter is another kind of aspect. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is still that level of separation for me. Like they know what I do and they're very proud of me and they're very supportive of me, which is great. And there are like so many kind of people within my Asian kind of family circle that actively show support, but I always try and like keep it separate. It's yeah, I'm not at that stage yet where I could be like, yeah, this is what I do to my family. It's really interesting.
Do you have like family members, like let's say cousins, who perhaps have gone down that professional line? Is there, well, yeah, first of all, do you?
Not yet, no. I've got like two cousins who are really young. They're like 12 or 13 or something.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
yeah.
Is there ever any sense of like comparison, or perhaps while you were growing up, was there a subdued sort of thing in the background? Like, okay, like I'm into the arts. All these other people are going down this kind of path.
The interesting thing is like my family or like my immediate family, they're all really creative people. They just went down like the professional route. And there's a part of me that does feel like they did sacrifice some of their passions to live up to that kind of Asian standard, right? Like my grandparents were obviously very traditional, and my parents, they kind of went into law and yada, yada, yada. But my mom, she was a writer. She really loves writing. And my dad is an amazing illustrator. He loves to draw. And he's really into architecture as well. And yet they both didn't pursue their passions. So if anything, they're kind of that whole situation really inspired me to kind of just pursue that fully, because I don't want to live a lie. I don't want to. I'm not saying that they are living a lie. I'm sure, like, you know, I'm very grateful for them to have worked so hard and went down their route, because without them it wouldn't be me. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But like, there is a part of me that's always thinking like, I don't want to do something because I'm expected to do something. I want to do it because I want to do it. And that's why I went down the artistic route and wanted to, you know, be an artist, because I didn't want to be stifled. I didn't want. Have you ever seen I'm sure you've seen Up, right? The movie Up. You know, the opening scene where everyone cries and shit, where like the old man and his wife, you know, grow up and stuff. That is my biggest fear, is to have grown old and realize that I had like a whole book of adventures I didn't go on. You know, all he wanted to do was go to Paradise Falls with the woman he loved, and he never got to. So I don't want to have that happen to me. So for me, I'd rather have Paradise Falls already in chapter 1. And I'm like building on that, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, just off of the last thing that you just said, which is you would rather have Paradise Falls in chapter 1. I almost view this as a trend among a lot of young people, that, hey, you've really got to live it up in your 20s because these are the best years of your life.
Interesting, yeah.
And the thing is about living it up in your 20s is this idea of knowing what it is that your dreams are. But when it comes to dreams, it seems like a lot of dreams these days are recycled from what we see online. So
True.
someone else's dream becomes
True.
your dream just
True.
because of pure
Oof.
exposure to it. And taking that a step further, the documentation of that dream to show that you also had a great time and to let other people know.
True.
Almost like virtue signaling to some extent.
True.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure where that conversation is going, but I felt like that would be worth commenting on, right? Because I mean,
100%.
I see it as I have a handful of friends who are entirely digitally disconnected. Like there are some friends that I can't get a hold of 8 to 10 months of the year just because they don't check their phone.
Respect.
You know what I'm saying?
I respect that.
And then I'll randomly see a WhatsApp message like so-and-so friend has changed their number. And it's like, what's plus 78? And then I'll have to Google it. And I'm like, what? I don't know what 78 is. But like, you're in this country? What? So that's a very interesting way that people live their lives. And that being said, I would like to say that it seems like the entire world is on social media. But the truth is it's just a very small fraction.
True. Yeah.
Right.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier with people always comparing themselves on social media because all we see are highlight reels. And yeah, my whole comment about the Paradise Falls being chapter 1 thing obviously isn't like, boom, like that's exactly what I want. But yeah, I agree. I think like it's very difficult for us to separate like, is this my dream or is this a dream that I got from someone else? I think that's something that we do need to acknowledge with social media, with celebrities and reality shows and all this kind of lifestyle being so prevalent these days. That's true. But I also am of the firm believer that you need to try it first to see if you really like it. So whenever I'm kind of like, talking with like a young person or someone who's trying to discover their passions and they're worried that like, oh, am I just doing this because, my favorite photographer is doing this or whatnot? I'm just like, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, feel free to copy for a little bit. Feel free to like, do this for a little bit. You need to try it and experience it first before you can really decide like, okay, this is what I want.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, like, don't compare yourself on social media, but at the same time, don't feel ashamed if someone's doings or someone's life seems interesting enough for you to try and replicate for a little bit at least.
100%.
If you get what I mean.
Totally.
It's like a fine line, right? Like there's like a very fine line with kind of like, I want to live my life because the Kardashian lives this way.
Yeah.
That's obviously like a little toxic, but if you want to try it that way, why not? Like if that's genuinely what you want to do, like, try it. Why not?
Yeah. What's your barometer for success for yourself, and has it changed as I do imagine it changes as the years go on.
Yeah.
But are you aware of what your barometer for success is now versus what it might have been a few years earlier?
I think like there's always like a financial aspect to this, right? There's always like, I want to make X amount per year. I want to, make sure I've got the X amount in my bank account. And I think that's very important. Okay. I feel like a lot of people always say like, oh, money isn't everything. I'm like of the belief that money is very important, but it shouldn't let it dominate everything that you do, right? Because at the end of the day, you do need to pay your bills. You do need to freaking survive. You do need to bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. So I think like financials aside, for me, I think like what makes me happy or my what I feel like success is basically whether or not I'm happy and whether or not I think my work is reflecting what I want to reflect, if that makes sense. So for me, my level of happiness is intrinsically linked to my output. So for me, as long as I'm doing and creating the work that I want to and telling the stories that I want to without any hindrance, that's for me success. So if I can create this project, do this project, release this project, I'm happy.
Cool.
If it's well received, I'm even more happy. But that's kind of like my parameter. And that's obviously with the financial thing like taken aside, because at the end of the day, money, you can't argue that. I feel like people that are like, oh, money can't buy happiness, like, nah, you're capping. Money, you need money to be happy.
Exactly.
Let's be real.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier briefly. The last time we had a conversation, I was employed full-time. I was at like a full-time job. And so I couldn't really appreciate what you were saying at that time in regards to you doing this full-time. And I knew that I couldn't appreciate it because I didn't even have the right questions to ask you when you did say that. I just thought, oh, how lucky this guy gets to work on his thing full time. But I've been doing this like entrepreneurship thing for a year and a half now. And wow, it's not easy. I mean, it's fantastic. There are so many upsides to doing something like this. But at the same time, you really become very much aware of the appetite you need to have for struggle, the appetite you need to have for risk taking, and the appetite for having fluctuating moods, potentially.
So true. So true.
I want to ask you about the last part first, the fluctuating moods thing, because I was listening to a podcast yesterday by Alex Hormozy, and he was saying how in business you really have to get that one thing under control in order to stay consistent. And oftentimes our fluctuating moods are a result of us reacting to, let's say, the reaction that the output gets, right? Whether that's sales, whether that's impressions, whatever it may be. Now, to detach yourself from the result of production is what keeps people going, is what I understand. I'm still very much a work in progress in terms of having the stomach for this kind of thing.
I think we all are, but yeah.
But for you, because you've been doing this for so many years, I would say, would you consider yourself a veteran, quote unquote, or no?
Nah, definitely not.
Yeah, and I imagine you have had this question come up, not to you directly, but you've asked to other people in your industry who are much further ahead than you. So what's the kind of feedback that you're getting from them, and where do you see yourself now in compared to what they've gone through?
I think like what they always say is the struggle is relative, right? Like at the end of the day, like you need to, all of them always say, and that rings true for me as well. My greatest advice would be like, yeah, it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
And it does suck. Like you said, the good things are great, but at the end of the day, this kind of fluctuating situation is inevitable. I think there are good years and there are bad years. For example, I think a lot of the industry, and not even just the creative industry, but a lot of industries last year or this year, 2023, have suffered. And there were months and months of like radio silence when it came to like commercial projects and stuff. And I'm going to be completely transparent here. There were moments this year where I was kind of like, yo, like, is this like the last time I'll ever get a paycheck? Is this the last commercial project I'll ever get? Especially with what we were saying about AI and stuff. So I think like 2024 and like the future and stuff, I think is going to be a very, well, like every year, I guess, it's always going to be like a ups and downs and like a very tumultuous kind of environment, especially as a freelancer and an independent artist. As a full-time independent artist, the most important thing is to have faith. And I know it's really cliche, and I know it's really it's easier said than done, but I think you just truly need to believe in what you do, in your creation, and in you. Because without that faith, you're screwed, genuinely. And the thing is, if you're not scared, being scared about like your situation and your financials and whatnot, that only makes you human. If you're not scared, then there's something wrong. I'd either respect you or I'd be like scared of you. I'd be like, yo, how are you not worried?
Yeah.
If you're at that level where you don't need to be worried, okay, fair enough. Like you've made it.
Yeah.
I think that's when I'll be like, okay, I've made it. It's like, even if it was a really crap year and I'm still comfortable, then fair enough. But right now, and I think like that journey is so long. And I think every day is marred by fear, nervousness, but that's all kind of under the faith. For me, if I believe in myself, then the fear and the nervousness will be like overtaken by the output and the creation. Is if I have this worries, this is like matters less, if that makes sense, you know? So I guess my advice would be like, find God.
Yeah.
Find God, or find whatever you may believe in, you know, whatever spiritual, whatever. It doesn't even need to be that. Like, just believe in yourself, you know? It really is so cringe, but truly, that's my biggest advice, is you just need to believe. And if things are really tough, then, you know, feel free to like get a side hustle. Like, I think that's the other thing. A lot of creatives and a lot of people, and young people, have this mentality of, I need to make it or I'll die. You know, I'll need to make it now or I'm a failure. That's not true. Because I feel like now especially, like, I'm going to be completely honest, right?
Yeah.
I always have these conversations with other creatives. And I would say that 5-6 years ago, Instagram Instagram and social media was very different to how it is now, right? Because I think like 5-6 years ago, all you had to do was really like post a lot on Instagram, and suddenly you can make a career out of yourself, and then suddenly you're freaking insane.
Yeah.
And yes, you could argue the same for TikTok and whatnot. Like, you've got like TikTok stars that blow up overnight because of one clip, right? But I think now everyone and anyone can go on Instagram, can create content that's insane. Anyone and everyone can create like amazing work, because our cameras are getting better, our technology is getting better, you've got AI, yada, yada, yada. So I think like creatives from 5-6 years ago, their struggle is very different to our struggle now. Content creators now have to face so much more competition, so much more hurdles, so many more kind of competitors everywhere. And that's why I think now more than ever, you just need to believe in yourself and believe in like your kind of, I don't know what's the word. Like, you just need to believe that your perspective is good enough. It's tough, you know, it's tough.
So, I would say the word we might be looking for is conviction.
Yeah.
Having conviction in whatever it is that you're doing, right?
For sure.
I think, and I don't mean to say this to knock anyone, it's the opposite of that. I think developing mental toughness is a massive skill.
Oh, 100%.
Mental toughness. Mental toughness comes from preparation, right?
True.
Preparation is working on your craft every single day.
Yeah.
When I first heard that you were doing this full time, I was like, wow, this guy's so lucky he gets to work on his craft every single day. But after I was given the luxury of time, I realized there's several steps beyond that where you actually have to create the discipline for yourself.
Oh, for sure.
To actually do the thing
for sure.
on repeat.
100%.
To get that good.
100%. I think faith is obviously very important, but there's one thing that I find so many young creatives are lacking, and that's something that I would consider as so crucial that I wouldn't even say that it's like, you know, like it's so like, it's such a given that I don't even say you need it.
Right.
Like for me, if you don't have that discipline, if you don't have that mentality of this is what I need to, like, people always think like, oh, if you're a creative, everything's lax. Everything's like, oh, you don't have a schedule.
Yeah, laid back, drink a coffee.
Yeah, you know, I can create this. And like, if you're at that level, fair enough. Because there are artists who can reach that level where like, I'll paint like every 5 months.
And that's also the lifestyle that they kind of put forth, right?
But especially now, kind of going off of what I was saying earlier with everyone can do this now, discipline more than ever is so important. Like, it's like last time we spoke about this, we were talking about Jose Mourinho and how discipline in sports is so important because talent without that discipline is useless. It's moot now because everyone is as talented as you. Yeah. It's like when you can't, it's like, I feel like sports is such a good example for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sports is great.
Because I feel like there are so many people, for example, at school where you're like, yo, you're so good at football, dude. Like, holy shit, you're going to go pro. You're going to be sick. You're going to light up the whole world. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, nah, like, give him like 10 years. He's going to be the pro. He's going to represent the country. Bada bing, bada boom. He goes to uni, blah, 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 blah. He tries to go pro, realizes that everyone is as good as him, if not better. And then suddenly, boom, his dreams are dashed and he's fucked. Like, he's not like that. And I think that like example is so true for like creative industries as well. It's like, for a hot sec, you think you're the shit. You're like, you genuinely think like, oh wow, I'm like a creative. Yeah. Like, that was me at school. Yeah. I was kind of like, oh, you know, like, I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna freaking like make a career. Yeah. And then I move to London and I go to uni, or I meet people, and then suddenly I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. Everyone can do what I do. Everyone is as good as me. Everyone can draw. Everyone can take photos. Blah blah blah. And that's why discipline and that mentality of like, I need to be on this every single day is so important. Mentality, I think, faith and mentality, these are so important. And I think like, if you don't have that winning mentality of, I need to do this every single day, I need to be better every single project. If you don't have that, I think you're fucked. Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest. I think like talent, it's like Star Wars. Right.
Dude, I love the references you're giving. Yes, very much in line. Keep going.
Star Wars. Yeah. I hated the sequel trilogy, and a lot of people hate the sequel trilogy.
Well, 1, 2, 3.
Sorry. So 7, 8, 9.
Oh, okay.
And this is not because Rey is a woman. This is none of that. I loved Rey. Okay. Force Awakens, I loved that film so much because I was legit. Yeah. You can ask Marcus when you see him. Yeah. As I was leaving the theater, I was like, I want to get Rey tattooed on me, man. I'm in love with her. She's the coolest character of all time. And then 8, 9 shat on all her development because they just made her like so powerful without training that it just felt like, okay, what the hell's going on? And then in 9, I'm pretty sure, even though it's a crap film, Luke Skywalker says to Rey, oh no, it wasn't actually in that one. I think it was in The Mandalorian. In The Mandalorian, Luke tells Baby Yoda, talent without training or talent without discipline is useless, or like something like that along those lines. Yeah. So I firmly believe that you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the mentality, if you don't have the training, if you don't have the experience, if you don't have that kind of like discipline, then frankly, there's a high likelihood that you're not going to make it. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably my biggest advice, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, do you need to use the washroom or something?
No, I'm good.
Oh, you're good? Okay, cool. Man, you know, so... doing all these podcasts, my brain has an automatic timer, and I know exactly when an hour has gone by.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's been such
Holy crap. Has it actually been an hour? 53.
Okay. We're
Not bad.
We're getting close. And I don't want to wrap up this conversation. I think because I have like 3 other questions that I think I can riff off just what you've just said. But one that I think might be directly relevant to this concept of working hard. And I think I'm going to give a personal example over here.
Hell yeah.
2023 for me has been, I'm still trying to figure out how to characterize this year. I haven't gotten around to properly journaling about it or really doing a proper review. So perhaps this might be the start. But what I've noticed is it's very easy as a human being to get attached to struggle. Okay? And let me try and be more clear about what this means. In the pursuit of excellence, you're going to have your pitfalls. But when you have the opportunity to express your pitfalls, all of a sudden that can become your character. Like, hey, look at how much I'm struggling. I'm trying to do something amazing. I'm struggling. Holy shit, I'm struggling, right? And that almost feels good in some type of way that, hey, I'm expressing that I'm struggling, therefore I must be doing something right. But staying on that path of struggle for a long time could give way to thoughts that, hey, I might not be cut out for doing this. And this has happened to me on 3 separate occasions just this year, like large spells of feeling this way. Yeah. That pretty much at the end of that, when I'm ready to just be like, all right, maybe I should just go and find a full-time job again because that was way easier. a new opportunity just arises out of nowhere. It's like the mist just separates, and out of nowhere, this figure that I've known for so long, or like this new figure comes out, right? Like the ghost of Luke Skywalker or something just like comes out, and he's like,
Yeah.
follow the path. I'm like, okay. And I follow it. And I have a great like 2 months. And then it's that cycle on repeat. So yes, what I've noticed, another thing I've noticed about this year is discipline for me looks very disciplined for the next, very different for the next guy.
Right.
Right. And I want to explore that a little bit by knowing what your day looks like as a creative. And I feel like people can get insight into that by watching your vlogs. But I've just perfected my perfect discipline. It's I need to read until my brain hurts before I go to bed.
Love that.
I like it just brings me a lot of joy, and my dreams are way more vivid.
Nice.
And I feel like my body, like this is gonna sound crazy, but like the blood circulation and everything is so much better because I'm mentally stimulated before I go to bed. Then I wake up in the morning, and the first thing that I do, the first activity, proper activity, is like writing.
Love.
You know,
Love that.
with like my tea, my hot tea, like that combination.
Do you like document your dreams or something? Or
I used to document my dreams a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was really into like, oh, what do my dreams mean and all that stuff. But now I kind of just let it flow, right? Because I think writing is emotion.
For sure.
Writing is an expression.
Love.
So I just flow,
Love.
right? And whatever comes out of that comes out of it. And from there, I try and take excerpts. And I haven't started creating this content, but I like, you know, those like quotes that you see on Instagram and stuff. It's very easy content to make.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah.
But secondly, if it comes from you and if it comes from like a real place, then it's kind of like worth sharing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so the writing thing, and honestly, those two things plus a workout regimen are the only three things that I really need as the cornerstones of my life.
Amazing.
Right? Because then your brain is working out and your body's working out.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest of the stuff, when it comes to like actually doing your work and all that stuff, I feel like that falls into place very automatically.
Right. Yeah.
And even though I'm aware that this is my perfect routine, I personally, as an individual, find it hard to stick to that routine.
Okay.
You know?
Interesting.
And this means like going to bed at exactly the same time.
Right.
Waking up at exactly the same time.
Right.
Doing this and doing that. And I found it a lot easier when there was someone telling me like, hey, you have to do this. You have to do this.
Right.
And through this process, because I also have learned to be very kind to myself in this process, because I think it's easy to be mean
100%.
to yourself. Like, oh, you know, you should just like do this. You know. You have to build that voice in your head that is your coach as well. Like you have to be your own coach.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, do you have that voice? And what does a day in your life look like for you to be an artist that is of your caliber right now?
My caliber.
Dude, I mean, you can draw, you can take photos. People like your work.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? You're 27.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? You've been doing this for years.
True.
Right? There's something there. What is there? Is it? Does it come out of discipline?
I think like, yes, 100% there is that level of discipline. I think, I can't lie, my routine is quite basic. And for me, it's just waking up early. And when I say early, it's not like, I know some people like to wake up at like 5. I have like a really good friend of mine, and she wakes up every morning at like 5. Like, I can't do that. For me, I wake up at like 9 or 8:30 or something. And then what I like to do is basically I'll have a cup of coffee. Love coffee.
Love coffee.
I'm getting into that like phase of like making my own coffee, all that stuff. I'm into that fad right now. So I'll make a cup of coffee, and then I'll basically sit down, do some admin, and then basically just kind of go through the normal work day. And then at 6 p.m. I stop. And it's kind of like for me, no matter, unless I've got like a deadline that requires a lot of work, I always remind myself that I need to stop and then spend time with my girlfriend and just chill. And that's my routine, basically. Like, and weekends, I'm chilling. Always chilling, because I always need to. It's like you said. I think it's so important for you to understand that you need to love yourself, and you need to have time for, like you said, you need to work out. You make sure you're healthy, eating good, etc., etc. But I think there's also a level of you need some time to yourself to relax. I think we're of this kind of culture of hustle culture,
There we
right?
go.
Where you need to be working every single second, which is true, but you need to have off time. It's all about balance. It's all about equilibrium. So for me, I like to work like every single day as if I'm on at like a 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, and then I just relax.
Yeah.
But during those 9 to 6, I'm like switched on like hell. And that's just something that like I've gotten used to over the last 7 to 8 years now, where for I've had the same routine for the last 7 years, where I always wake up at 9 and I'm always done at 6.
Awesome.
Unless there was like a crazy project that needed to be done.
Yeah.
So for me, that kind of like, I don't really go through the, I don't want to do this today kind of vibe, just because I'm so used to it. But I think that's just something that kind of comes naturally, eventually.
Yeah.
Is that your body will know that like, okay, this is the routine.
Yes.
But in the beginning, I think, yeah, there were moments where I did need to like remind myself like, okay, this is worth it. I need to do this. I need to wake up. I feel lazy today. But like now I don't really have that inner voice coach, but I think in the beginning there was definitely like a inner me being like, go, do your thing, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's what you said basically. It's so important to be forgiving with yourself. Just because you break your routine once in a while or like, you know, just for something isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
You need to understand that like your body needs breaks, you know, your mind needs breaks.
Yeah.
But I love your routine though, the reading and the writing and journaling. Love that. Might actually try that.
Yeah, dude, try it. I mean, yeah. I want to start vlogging again. I've been vlogging since I was like 6 years old.
Love.
Like I have a video. I actually shed a tear when I saw this. I forgot this existed, but my
Sick.
dad pulled out like a 2007 Mac and like booted it up, and then we were going through the files, and there's a video of me as like a 10-year-old wearing like a basketball jersey. Like I was a super skinny kid, and he's just like, "Hey, future Nik, I hope you're in America right now,
No
wherever
way.
you are." Yeah. And I saw that and I shed a tear because I was like, wow, I really loved America growing up.
Lol.
I loved America. I guess it's because of, I mean, they had a really strong brand, including
Movies,
just massive,
TV shows,
Hollywood,
music,
basketball fan,
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But vlogging, that's why I was like, hey, wait, vlogging is like, it's a beautiful art, right? I mean, like, I think editing is where the magic really comes through.
For sure.
But editing and actually getting to that stage of getting on the editing bench and doing the editing requires some discipline. I mean, I'm sure you've had
I
moments.
love editing.
I love editing
I
too.
love editing so much. It's my favorite part.
Yeah, same.
It's my favorite part.
Same.
Photos,
A lot
video,
of directors are also editors. Like
Oh,
you will
yeah,
see, like
100%.
I mean, a lot of directors are everything.
Yeah,
Writers,
the best ones, in my opinion, can do everything.
everything, right? But yeah, that's why I think having a vlog that kind of shows that day in the life, like I really respect that, you know. And I'm curious to see how you execute it in this coming year, because if your life looks very much the same every day, how are you filming the nuances of your life? Or is it that you show, or is the beauty in the repetition?
I don't know.
You know?
I guess that is like something that I'll have to discover as well, because I can't lie.
Yeah.
That is a question I always ask to myself, is like, now my life does feel very routine-y. You know, it does feel like, okay, 9 to 5. I still love it, and don't get me wrong, I don't think I'll ever like be like, oh, I work a 9 to 5, I hate my life. Like, I love that there is that kind of repetition that but I agree that like maybe content wise it might start getting a little boring for people that watch my vlogs or whatever, because they'll be like, but for now at least, like I am intrigued to see, you know, if like 2024 is basically going to be the same thing. Like, do I need to kind of do anything new or evolve in a new way or add new things? But for now, the formula is like, my vlog formula at least is kind of like, wake up, I do a little intro and like an agenda for the day. I do some like life bits, because lots of people like the life bits. Which is something I never would have expected people to want to see, but hey ho. So I do like a little bit of life bits, and then there's like a whole section of photography. So like I'll take the photo, edit the photo, final result, and then I'll cut back to life bits. And that's kind of like my formula right now. It's like life and work, boom. And because that's genuinely what my life is like, because 9 till 6, I'm working, and then it's life. And then weekends we do stuff. So yeah, maybe, I can at some point in 2024, I might have to like add some nuances or add some new bits or
Go on
do
a little
something
trip to
different.
Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You never know. But as of right now, like this is the routine that I've built. This is the formula that I've got for my life in general. And I'm like, again, going back to the whole kind of boomer energy, like I like having this kind of routine. I like having this formula.
Power and routine.
Yeah, for sure. I am also very much like a firm believer of sometimes stepping out of your comfort steps, like 100% step out of your comfort zone when it comes to work and stuff. But I think like it's interesting, like me like loving this formula, but also believing that like you should break your formula every now and then.
Yeah.
So you're right. Maybe at some point in 2024, I'll be like, yo, fuck it, I'm gonna go to Brazil. I'm gonna go to freaking, that'd be sick actually.
Yeah.
Or go to LA or something. Bada bing, bada boom. But
Actually, just on the Brazil topic, so I am planning a trip there in Feb 2025
Amazing.
because of Carnival. Like you want to be there for Carnival, right?
hell yeah.
But on that note, for anyone, because I know Brazil's becoming a popular destination now because of like Brazilian funk and social media, all that stuff. But it's quite expensive in Feb for obvious reasons, festival time. So if you can get away like a month and a half before that, then you can find like cheaper places to stay and actually ride that cheaper wave into Carnival.
Hell yeah.
Back to what you were saying.
I mean, yeah, pretty much that. It's just like, I think, yeah, at the end of the day, I think to kind of summarize everything that I've said, I think as a self-made creative, as a freelancing creative, the most important thing for you is to, one, have the discipline to create a routine for you to follow, because our human nature relies on these routines to be productive.
Yes.
So discipline, stick to your routine, do your thing, and then more importantly, have faith in your thing, have faith in your routine, and have faith in your product.
Yeah.
But all of this is also with the caveat of you need to make sure that you have a balance of leisure and work. So have this routine, do your thing, have faith, be ruthless with your work, be ruthless with yourself, but chill on the weekend. After a certain hour, relax. Be with your family, be with your friends, live life, go to Brazil, go ski somewhere, I don't know. But then the minute you're back in your work, focus. That's the main thing for me, is like, maybe it's like the Gemini in me, I don't know. But for me, when I'm working, I'm in. And this is maybe a little red flag for me, but whenever I'm working, I hate when people talk to me. Like when I'm in the zone, I'm like, you ever seen Social Network? Obviously.
Yeah, love it.
You know, when Justin Timberlake goes into the house and he's like, oh, hey, man, I'm what's his name? And then the guy's just like on the computer, just like, boom. Yeah. And then Mark Zuckerberg comes in and he's like, oh, yeah, he's wired in. He can't talk. That's me. I like to be wired in and no one disturb me. But then the minute I'm done, I'm like, yo, what's good, guys? Like, let's chill. Let's relax.
Cool.
So, yeah, I think that's it for me. It's like discipline, 100%, faith, 100%. But understand that you need balance. So be ruthless at work and relax when you're chilling. That's probably like my summary of everything.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome. That's really
cool. If that makes sense.
My final question to you was going to be, what do you think your strongest skills are? But I feel like you almost wrapped it up and answered that indirectly with what you just said.
I guess, yeah.
But if there are any other skills that come to mind, I mean, I'd love to hear them. One of them being personal finance. I think that's a very strong skill that everyone needs to master.
True. True.
You know, spending frivolously is obviously something everyone wants to do, but if you are an entrepreneur, if you are doing anything, you do need to manage your finances.
Yeah, for sure.
Money is power in the sense that it's energy, and you have to make it flow in the right directions, keep enough for yourself for rainy days, because nothing is ever guaranteed, blah, 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 all that.
I mean, you've pretty much summed it up, to be fair. Like, you just need to be responsible, you know? I think, like, to be a self-made creative, to be, you know, a freelancer, you need to be an adult sometimes. Not even sometimes, all the time. But like, just understand that you need to live, you need to survive. And I don't want to just survive, you know? I want to live, right? So, like, if that means... Like, for example, this is very unhealthy, and I probably would not recommend this to anyone. I eat like one meal a day. but I'll make that one meal like massive. But like I am like so stingy with my money that I'm like,
oh, it's a money thing. It's not like a weight thing.
No, I don't really like my metabolism is quite good.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
For now, for now at my age, but yeah, like it's not really a weight thing. It's not really a health thing. In fact, it's probably really unhealthy. But I kind of practice intermittent fasting just because of money. I like to just like for me, I think obviously there are certain expenses that are needed, right? Like rent and tax and equipment and bada bing bada boom. But I'm very much of if I don't need to spend that money, I'm not gonna. That's the Asian in me. I feel you know that's the Chinese in me.
Being stingy is a good trait. I think
exactly.
It's called being stingy, but
it's true.
You know,
I mean, it's like
conscious.
In London, for example, there are certain ATMs that charge you to take money out, which sucks.
Yeah.
So for me, this is how stingy I am. There would be an ATM right next to the door that charges me 50p. That's like 5 Hong Kong dollars, right? To take out money. I would walk 20 minutes to the next ATM to save that 50p and then walk back. Like, that's my, like, you know, I've said this so many times throughout the podcast, being like, this is my biggest advice. This is the most important thing. This is my most important advice would be like, be stingy. It's okay to be stingy. Okay, your girlfriend and your partner or whatnot, or your friends will probably hate you for it, but they'll thank you in the long run. When you've got like a little bit of money saved for the rainy day, I'd rather have that.
Yeah. You ever watch Entourage? No, you've never seen the TV show Entourage?
No.
Wow.
I've heard of Entourage, but I've never seen it.
Wow. Okay. Like 2007 show, HBO.
Okay.
Great production. Okay. Basically chronicles Mark Wahlberg's early days in Hollywood.
Amazing.
But obviously not the cast of Mark Wahlberg, but people representing that, right? So these guys from Boston, kind of like maneuvering Hollywood. And I remember there being an episode where the Hollywood producers were like, what director is out there in Hollywood that can make this film amazing on the smallest possible budget, right? And it was like this, we're already like in season 3 of like Entourage. This guy had been like outcasted for like just bad behavior and like always shouting at his cast and all that, cast and crew. And they brought him back, but then because at this point you really understand this man's character, you know, and he's not just stingy with money. That stinginess or that character trait really bleeds into other areas of his life, which also inform his creativity in some way. Like I think Dr. Seuss said this, but the greater restrictions that you have, the more creative you can be. You know,
that's why like early days of Instagram and Vine were so amazing, because there was that like Vine, there was the restriction of 7 seconds. In my opinion, Vine creators were like in like miles ahead of TikTok. Like nowadays, I think like the best TikTokers do give like that Vine energy. But Vine having like 7 seconds, you need to tell your story, you need to do your thing, do your bit, comedians and whatnot. They mastered that so well. Within 7 seconds, you got the hook, you got the delivery, everything. Instagram, early days, everything was a square. So everyone was just using that as like and then people were doing crazy shit with like the form and the format. But it's interesting with what you said about I think I'm getting the caffeine. The caffeine's hitting me right now. I'm like, I'm ready, man. But it's like full circle moment, because what you said with what's the director that can give us the most for the lowest amount is what we were saying about the AI thing. You know, with how like commercially that's probably what's going to happen is like, it is what's going to happen. It is what's happening with like, you know, executives and whatnot. So it's interesting. Full circle moment.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's so funny. So you're the first episode of season 2, and I usually end our episodes asking the guest, what is something you would give as advice to the younger version of yourself? But I do want to sort of like add some nuance to that question real quick, because personally, I wish I could go back in time and coach 15-year-old me.
100%.
You know, like
same.
Like coach him, you know, not just like go like dip back in time, like yo kid, here's some advice, and dip back, like buy Bitcoin now. Like I'm like
invest in this.
Buy this monkey, you know? No, it would be like I wish someone had shown me the ropes for things like going to the gym and like having that discipline and really blocking out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
I think high school is a bit of like an echo chamber. It's like a massive society, but just like on steroids because you're in one really small space.
True.
It's very hard to block out noise. But really, the advice I would give to younger me would be the same advice I think I should be taking now, which is block out all the noise and just
Good
really
advice.
focus and zero in on
Very good
what it
advice,
is that
yeah.
you're doing.
True.
And really be your biggest fan.
So important.
Be your biggest fan.
That's faith.
It's
faith.
faith.
It's faith. Yeah.
It is. And so that would be the advice I would give myself, really stick to your guns. You already know what your passions are.
Valid.
And I love what you said earlier about being a self-made creative. I've never heard that. You always hear things like self-made millionaire, self-made this, self-made that. But truly being the creative in your family, right? And being the one that took the step to see what a career in that field would be like. That's such a flex, like being a self-made creative. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that from now on.
Boom,
if
do
you
your
don't
thing.
mind.
Coin the term. Let's go.
But what kind of advice would you give yourself, knowing what Seb was like at 15, let's say? 14,
To be fair, like I feel like your advice is so good, like it's so true, and I think like that's probably some of the best advice you could ever get, especially at that age or at any point in your career, is to block out the noise and not listen to other people and not compare.
Yeah.
So I'll probably steal some of that, but if I
It's an
couldn't,
exchange.
if I couldn't repeat the answer, then I'd probably say, oh, I don't know, actually. I think that's a quite a hard question. Okay, there's a couple of things I would say. Okay. One, I would be like, school is not that bad, first and foremost. I'd be like, because at that age, I was like, yo, school is ass, man. I don't need to pay attention. School's actually kind of good.
Yeah.
Pay attention to school, listen to your teachers, all that.
Right.
Two, I think I'd just be like, this is going to sound like really kind of pretentious, but embrace the fear.
Okay.
It's going to sound hella deep, but
Yeah, go for it. That's what we're about.
At that age, and even now, to be fair, I think there's so much uncertainty. There's so much kind of fear of what is to come. And I think that's so relevant now, like on the cusp of 2024. There's so much uncertainty and so much kind of things that we don't know with AI, with the global climate and politics and everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So much uncertainty, right? And at that age, especially 15, 16, you're about to choose your uni course and whatnot. I think fear is actually not that bad a thing.
Yeah.
Because I think a small or like an X amount of fear is good because it will allow you to perform better. It's like, you asked me earlier if I ever feel nervous before a shoot or if I feel nervous before a project. Yes, and I always will. No matter at what stage I am in my career, I'm always going to be like, what if I fuck up?
Yeah.
What if I mess up? What if I don't turn out? What if everything goes wrong?
Yeah.
But that small amount of fear allows me to be so focused that I'm kind of like, this is why I'm not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
Like my fear of that happening is going to make me like, okay, I'm going to be switched on. I'm going to make sure that that's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, I'll be all right because I already saw it kind of coming.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest advice would be, to kind of embrace the fear and understand that mistakes will come. Cool. I think fear is scary because it's uncertain, right? But if you can introduce a level of certainty, I know this doesn't make sense, but if you can introduce certainty into uncertainty, it becomes less uncertain.
Focus on what you can control.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if I know that mistakes will come, I'll be less afraid of the mistakes coming. I guess that's just a long-winded way of saying mistakes will happen. Yeah. It's kind of like, if I know that there will be potential bad things, then I'll be like, okay, you know what, boom. So embrace the fear and embrace that bad things may happen and may come, but it's about how you bounce back. It's about how you control it, and then you can just become a better person.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, good job, man. Yo,
Yeah.
my God. Yo, by the way, I'm super proud of this.
Thank you.
Like what you made.
Thank you.
Worlds. The last time we had a conversation on the podcast was 3 years ago. Seb was just wrapping up one of his other projects, and yeah, I mean, this is really what came out of That whole thing. Are you still selling this on your website?
No. So there was like a very small amount of books that I only did. And yeah, it's all sold out, unfortunately.
I got the special edition. I got a signed copy as well. So great, man. Really appreciate you coming on the Nomadic mic.
Pleasure's all mine.
And thank you for the conversation, man, as always, my guy.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap. That's